morning. I'd like to call this December 12th, 2023 meeting of the Board of Adjustment order. Welcome, I'm Board of Adjustment Chair Robert Giles II. For those of you who have not been with us before, the Board of Adjustments is appointed by the City Council. The extraterritorial members are appointed by the County Commissioners. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. For today's public comments to address the Board in this meeting, please indicate that you wish to do so by raising your hand. Anyone who speaks before the Board, for the record, must give their name and address and swear or affirm that you will tell the truth. Appeals from the decision of this Board may be taken to Superior Court. We will first make a determination of quorum. Members present, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Robert Giles, here. Mark Kennedy.
Present.
Brian Ireland.
Here.
John Cattle. Here. Dean Rainey. Stephen Hyman. Here. We do have a determination of quorum. Do we have a motion to approve the September 12th, 2023 meeting minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor of approval, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. Item number 4, case number subdivision variance 23-05. Applicant is the City of Burlington. Owner is DKL Investment Solutions LLC. Location is 1724 Blackwell Road, Burlington, NC 27217. Alamance County parcel identification number 140236. Details are they're requesting a variance from the front street setback for a constructed single-family detached dwelling to be less than the required minimum 25 feet, which is measured from the right-of-way along Blackwell Road, UDO section 3.7.b.7. Who's here to present this?
That would be me.
Thank you. Please,
Could you please swear me in,
Yes, sir.
swear in Inspector Sanchez?
Okay, if y'all raise your right hands. Y'all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Y'all are sworn in.
Morning, everyone.
Excuse me, do you have a printed agenda for us?
No, ma'am.
Because when we reading up here, it's hard to see.
Hold on one second.
I was trying to find it on my mobile app as well. Can you tell me where it's at on the mobile? Because when you scan the QB code on the paper that was sent to us in the mail, it goes to 2022, not 2023 meetings. So can you?
It's on the City of Burlington page under 2023.
Okay, yeah.
All right, good morning. My name is Jeff McClintock. I'm a principal planner here in the City of Burlington. I've asked for your patience while I read this presentation word for word into the record. Now, if I speak softly or less clearly than needed during any portion, let me know and I will reread it. I place documents at your seat marked as exhibits. I will be entering these exhibits into evidence and explaining each one as I proceed through my presentation. Items 4 and 5. There are 2 separate variance requests in this meeting. The City of Burlington will be presenting and requesting both variances on behalf of the property owners, DKL Investment Solutions LLC. Today I will present the facts of both requests at the same time in one presentation. You will need to vote on each variance separately, but for the interest of time and redundancy, I'm presenting the evidence for both variances at the same time. The circumstances involved with the particular points of each request are the same. The properties are located side by side, are in the same zoning district, high-density residential, and have the same owners and the same contractors. The property owners requested and received approved building permits during the same time periods. The construction and subsequent building inspections have proceeded successfully in the time frame. The city, on behalf of the owners, are seeking the exact same variance from the same section of the UDO. The evidence and arguments are identical for both properties. If you have a question about a particular point, please let me know at that time, and I will answer to the best of my knowledge. I'm going to get a little bit of water in case my mouth gets dry. Subdivision variance 23-05 at 1724 Blackwell Road, property identification number 140236, and subdivision variance 23-06 at 1720 Blackwell Road, property identification number 140235. If you'll look on your screen or in your information packet, you will see Exhibit 1. Both variance requests have been properly noticed via mailing to property owners within 300 feet of the subject properties, and both properties have been posted with a notification sign. The City of Burlington is requesting variance from the Unified Development Ordinance Section 3.7 BF regarding minimum street setback standards for a constructed single-family detached dwelling to be less than the required 25 feet as measured from the right-of-way along Blackwell Road. Enclosed in the Board of Adjustment packet provided to you, you will find the following items for each property. Attachment 1, the SmartGov application. Attachment 2, the aerial map. Attachment 3, the future land use map. Attachment 4, the existing zoning. Attachment 5, the UDO section 3.7. Attachment 6, the map of the surrounding neighborhood with blue lines showing existing homes closer than 35 feet to the center line of the right-of-way. Attachment 7, a survey showing front of property and right-of-way along Blackwell Road. On the screen and in your handouts, Exhibit 1 shows both properties. Exhibit 2 and Exhibit 2A shows photos of the property at 1724 Blackwell Road. 2 and 2A. Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 3A shows photos of the property at 1720 Blackwell Road. And 3A. Okay, so background and site information. The owner of the property applied for residential building permits BR-23-0191 for 1724 Blackwell Road and BR-23-0193 for 1720 Blackwell Road to construct single-family detached dwellings on each of these lots. The permits were reviewed and approved by city staff. Both structures were constructed and both were in the process of nearing completion when city staff discovered that an error was made. Let me explain. An error was made by the applicant on the site plan submitted with both building permit applications. The street setback measurements were shown to the front property line rather than the right-of-way line. This error was not caught by city reviewers. Both structures were originally reviewed and approved to be placed too close to the right-of-way along Blackwell Road. If you look on the screen, you'll see the site plans that are included with the building permit applications. Exhibit 4. Exhibit 4 in your packet. The site plan for BR-23-0191 for 1724 Blackwell Road. Note the inset picture I've added with section 8.3 D5 lowercase a that indicates the measurement should have been indicated to the right-of-way. Next, Exhibit 5 on the screen. BR-23-0193 for 1720 Blackwell Road. Note that the front setback measurement is drawn to the front property line rather to the right-of-way line on those surveys. Once again, note the inset picture that I've added of UDO section 8.3 D5 lowercase a that indicates the measurement should have been indicated to the right-of-way. Exhibit 6. UDO section 2.4.cc.5 states, a variance application shall be approved provided on a finding that the applicant demonstrates all of the following. I will now read off each individual factor as it's written in the UDO, then provide reasons why we believe each of the 5 factors are satisfied in this situation and that a variance should be granted. 1. The unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. It shall not be necessary to demonstrate that, in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. To comply with the ordinance, the structure would have to be torn down and rebuilt in a different location, or the front portion of the structure would have to be removed to meet the setback requirement, if that is even possible. Both of these creates an undue hardship for the owner. To remain in place with the violation would cause unnecessary hardship for this owner and anyone in the future attempting to purchase the property, as it may prove difficult for a buyer to get a home loan with an outstanding violation. Number 2, from the UDO. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Hardships resulting from personal circumstances, as well as hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public, may not be a basis for granting this variance. Exhibit 7. Exhibit 7 is a neighborhood survey dated 11/15/2022. Please note that the property line for both 1724 and 1720 Blackwell Road extends to the center of the right-of-way on Blackwell Road, rather than terminating at the edge of the right-of-way line, as on other roads in the neighborhood, such as Hooker Street and Preston Street, which are nearby. Number 3 from the UDO. The hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the landowner. The act of purchasing property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of the variance shall not be regarded as a self-created hardship. The property owner applied for building permit BR 23-0191 and BR 23-0193. These permits were approved by the City of Burlington. Building inspections were conducted by city staff. The error concerning the street yard setback requirement was not identified until after construction was nearing completion. Number 4 from the UDO. The variance approval is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. The only variance requested is for the street setback requirement along Blackwell Road. No other variances are necessary, and no other variance would resolve the issue of the setback requirement. Number 5, from the UDO. The requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such as that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. Exhibit 8. Thank you. As you see in Exhibit 8, this is is an older neighborhood in Burlington established well before the UDO, which was adopted in 2019. Both structures, as built in their current locations, are spaced similarly to homes in the nearby properties and streets in this neighborhood, some of which are closer to the right-of-way than the current standards permit.
Where's the location at?
The UDO provides relief from the minimum street back standards in neighborhoods established before the effective date of this ordinance, Exhibit 9. And in Exhibit 9, you'll see the blue highlighted area. In the standards for high-density residential zoning, let me read UDO section 3.7.f, and that's footnote 12 that's been highlighted there. In cases where development is in a subdivision established prior to the effective date of this ordinance, no setback shall be required to be greater than the average setback of existing residential structures on the same side of the block or within a distance of 500 feet horizontally on either side when blocks are not present. The exception to the street setback minimum distance in the UDO demonstrates that the general purpose and intent of the standards written into the UDO is to allow flexibility in the placement of structures to be consistent with other homes within an older established neighborhood. And show Exhibit 10, please. Exhibit 10 are 3 separate pages of this table. This is UDO Table 8.3E. This 3-page table outlines features that can encroach into required setbacks. Some notable examples are an uncovered porch and a covered porch, steps, handicap ramps. It also details how far each feature can encroach into required setbacks. Table 8.3E also demonstrates that the general purpose and intent of the UDO is to provide flexibility with required setbacks for property owners where possible. To demonstrate that several of the existing homes in this neighborhood are spaced close to the street, I have prepared some examples so that you may get the general feel for this neighborhood. With each of these exhibits, I will have a GIS picture first, showing the location of the property relative to the subject properties, and then a picture of how they would appear from the street. Exhibit 11 shows 313 Foster Street. 11 and then 11A shows what it looks like. Exhibit 12 and 12A on the screen show the property at 319 Foster Street.
That's not the same. That's not the same.
Exhibit 13 and 13A show the property at 327 Foster Street. Exhibit 14 and 14A show the properties at 1635 and 1637 Preston Street, and the picture is taken at an angle to show how it looks down the street. Exhibit 15 and 15A show the property at 1707 Preston Street. Exhibit 16 and 16A show the property at 1717 Preston Street. Exhibit 17 and 17A show the property at 1721 Preston Street.
It's always different.
Exhibit 18 and 18A show the property at 330 Hooker Street. And notice with this home, it seems to sit farther back from the street right of way and has a small front yard. However, notice where the utility poles are located. They're in the right of way, so actually this home is quite close to the street right of way. Without a survey to know the exact measurements, it's very probable that if this home were to be damaged more than 50% of its value by fire, tornado, a disaster or something, if rebuilt, it would have to meet the street setback of 25 feet or apply to this board for a variance to be built back in the same location. Exhibit 19 and 19A show the property at 319 Hooker Street. Exhibit 20 and 20A show the property at 1728 Blackwell Street. Exhibit 21 and 21A show the property at 303 Austin Street.
And?
Exhibit 22 and 22A show the property at 310 Austin Street. Exhibit 23 and 23A, B, C, and D show the property at 320 Austin Street, and there are 3 homes on that single lot. That's why there are 4 pictures. Exhibit 24 and 24A show the property at 328 Austin Street. I believe you will see from these photos that the neighborhood has existing structures close to the street. Now I'm going to introduce the building inspector with the city of Burlington.
Continue.
Now I'd like to introduce the building inspector with the city of Burlington, Mr. David Sanchez.
Morning. My name's David Sanchez. I'm building inspector with the city
Can you
of
speak
Burlington.
up, please?
Okay. I'm David Sanchez, the building inspector with the city of Burlington. I've been employed in the inspections department for 16 years. I was the building inspector. I inspected the 2 homes located at 1724 Blackwell Road and 1720 Blackwell Road. I personally visited the building sites on August 28th, 2023. The purpose of my visit was to inspect the foundation. When inspecting a foundation as a building inspector, I'm looking at the measurements of the footing and the foundation structure itself. I am not there to measure the distance between the structure and the property line, street or right-of-way. That is not what I'm there to inspect. However, with 16 years' experience, I will usually pick up on things that are amiss about the location of the foundation. On August 28th, 2023, the day of my inspection, I did not notice anything out of the ordinary with the placement of the foundation footing on the lot. I did not pull out a tape, measure the distance from the home structure to the property line, street or right-of-way. Again, my purpose of the inspection was to inspect the footing and the foundation. Okay. Although I was not inspecting the distance of the structure from the street and eyeballing the foundation footing in relation to Blackwell Road, in relation to other homes along Blackwell Road, and in the neighborhood in general, there was nothing about the distance that seemed out of the ordinary to me. This neighborhood was built up in the 1930s to 1950s, long before zoning laws came about. The homes in this neighborhood are comparable when talking about distance from the homes to the street, especially along Foster Street, Preston Street, Hooker Street, and Blackwell Road. The homes sit very close to the street, just like these 2 new homes in 1724. I've been inspecting this neighborhood for the last 16 years, and I've even met some of the property owners in the area many, many years. So, as shown in the photos that Jeff just displayed, the distance from the home to the street of these new homes located at 1724 and 1720 Blackwell Road are consistent with the distance of other homes to the street within this older established neighborhood. Visually, the distance from these new homes to the street are consistent and uniform with the neighborhood. The inspection department joins the planning department in requesting these two variances be granted. Turn this over to Jeff again. Thank you.
In conclusion, we believe the attachments, exhibits, and testimony provides material, competent, and substantial evidence of the 5 factors required to approve a variance. The city is thrilled that this developer is interested in the city of Burlington and willing to build these homes. We believe the addition of these homes will serve to beautify this neighborhood for our city. The city of Burlington respectfully requests a variance be granted for the UDO section 3.7 BF regarding the minimum street setback standards so that the single-family detached dwelling nearing completion at 1724 Blackwell Road can remain less than 25 feet as measured from the right-of-way along Blackwell Road, and also for the home at 1720 Blackwell Road. Thank you for allowing me to present before you today. I'm available for any questions that you might have for me or for Inspector Sanchez. We'll be here to answer your questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Exhibit 4 and Exhibit 5, both of those plans show a 2-car driveway. Obviously, that would not fit within the measurements now, so will another variance be required for that, or what?
The variance will not necessarily be required for a driveway because a driveway can be in the setbacks. And it's actually in that 3-page table, things that are allowed in required setbacks, or features that are allowed in required setbacks.
Any other questions? Thank you. Is there any additional evidence from the city?
No.
At this point in time, would anyone like to speak in favor of this development? Go ahead. Name, and do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Daniel LaBerge. So I'm the owner of these 2 properties, and I just want to let you know kind of our process of why they're built where they are. We have made a decision as a company, and we're a family-owned company, pretty small, to focus on low-income and workforce housing as what we're trying to provide to people into neighborhoods. These are the first new properties, new houses we've built in Burlington. We've repaired many houses and have rental properties here that provide quality rentals here, but first new ones that we've built. So because it was a new area, we chose a surveyor that was a longtime surveyor here in Burlington, Boswell Surveying, been here for decades. They did a survey of the property and gave us where the property lines were and where we could build, where the right-of-way were. That survey gets sent to an architect who develops a site plan based on that surveyor's results and based on the UDO. She sends the site plan back. That site plan said, here's the building footprint where you can build the house, you can't go past this. And so based on that site plan, we then make a decision. For us, we try and move the house as far forward as we can, that we're allowed to provide a bigger backyard for kids to be able to play, and for parking if we need to have the parking. So we're not even, I guess in our minds, we're not concerned as much about how it looks from the front as providing play area for kids, knowing that many of the people that move into these houses are going to have kids. So we try and provide as big a backyard as possible. So based on the survey, based on the site plan, we submit all of that to the city of Burlington to be permitted. And just like any other property we would build, we try to follow the rules. We did everything we thought we were doing correctly. We didn't say, hey, I know we can't do this, but let's try and do it anyway and see if we can get away with it. It wasn't that situation at all. The surveyor and the site plan, everything looked like we could build the houses there. When we submitted for permitting, that's when those mistakes would normally be caught. The permit in the application process would say, hey, you can't do that, that's in the right of way, you can't put the house there. That was never an issue, so we figured it was not an issue at all. We then, before we build, have the surveyor come back out and he will mark the corners of the house to be able to dig the footings and build the foundation of the house. He is required to follow what the permit says and the site plan that's been approved by the city. And so that's what he did, and then we started building. Once we had the house up and we're working on the interior of the house, that's when one of the inspectors, or somewhere along the line, someone said, hey, we may have a problem here. We were already well along the way in construction and had no idea this was even an issue or a thing. We weren't trying to get away with anything or skirt any rules. We thought we were doing everything exactly like we were allowed to do. Once that came up, obviously we had a problem. We got a stop work order. The city recognized, hey, this was our mistake. We should have never approved this. We're sorry. You can go ahead and keep building while we try and get this figured out. Again, the structure was already built. The exterior was done. We're working on the interior. Hundreds of thousands of dollars into the project before we even knew that this was a potential concern. So it would be an incredible hardship for us to have to tear something down like that and move it back, especially since from the very beginning we thought we were following the rules exactly as they were written, and we even hired a local surveyor to make sure anything we wouldn't know, we would think that surveyor would know that. It was a mistake for multiple people, and unfortunately we're the ones that had to take the risk for that. And that's why we're requesting the variance. And again, the fact that it is consistent with a lot of the houses in the neighborhood, although the houses don't look the same, the setback from the roads are very consistent. We don't think that it's a huge change or departure from what's already in the neighborhood. Had we known this to begin with, we would have never built the house there. We wouldn't have been allowed to build the house there. So that's kind of our side as the owner, why we're requesting this as well.
A driveway, a backyard, you have nothing there. What a big house. Three houses.
Would anyone else like to speak in behalf of approval of the variance? Would anyone like to speak for disapproval of the variance? Okay. Everyone, would y'all like to speak? Would y'all like to elect the spokesperson to speak, or do we all need to speak individually?
Well, it's pretty much down on the opinions, because we could like at least have like 3 or 4 different opinions.
3 or 4
3 or 4 different people, okay? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
Need you to state your name and address and promise to swear to tell the truth.
My name is Ernestine Lewis. I live at 331 East Morehead Street.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't live over there, but I do have property. And I received these 2 letters in mail last week. Now, when this project started, I should have received them then, so I would have time to analyze what's going on today. I didn't know what was going on today. But sitting here, the city has documented the reason why they should approve this. You have good documentation. Now, I don't think the community, the people, had time to do what they needed to do to disapprove of the project. Now, you said you're the investment company, right? Well, the investment company sent me a letter, I think it was last year, about to buy my property. I didn't answer, because I'm not going to sell.
That was us.
But the fact is, there's no excuse neighborhood. You know we don't have respect for us anyway. So you think we don't deserve nothing, but we do. All those homes over there, the people did what they could do. But when you build rental houses in other neighborhoods, you do not put them like that. I went over there and looked at it. There was no excuse for that to happen. Because if you're building for low-income people, they have nowhere to park. And it's just not appropriate for this day and time of living for Afro-Americans, in my opinion. And nobody asked me to speak. I had no intention of speaking. But I could not sit here and see what happened and not say something. I would feel guilty later. Because this project should not be approved. Whoever the investors are, they're not going to lose any money if they have to move that, because those two houses should not have been put together. You only should have put one house. People can't do no better. Yes, they would rent it, but I would never rent it. So we have to change our mindset that Afro-Americans deserve decent housing, not these little botched up houses. You know, that's inhumane to do something like that. I mean, it just doesn't make no sense. And until you change your mindset about us, things like this gonna happen. And so my thing is, I could be up here all day, but I'm not. But you need to consider not approving this ordinance. They're not gonna lose any money. Then how much are those apartments gonna rent for? How much they gonna rent for?
We're actually gonna sell them.
How much you gonna sell them for? Who's gonna buy them? Unless you get a bank that's gonna go along with you, they're not gonna approve no loan for nobody, no house like that. I mean, look at the business. Most people may or may not know about business. I do know a little bit about it. Because I have lived long enough to live through a lot of things, so I know a lot of things. But you need to consider not approve that ordinance. They're not going to lose any money. If they lose any money, let the city pay for it and let them pay for it. Those houses, you need one house there. You don't need two houses.
Yes,
It's three.
What?
I mean, there's no excuse for this to happen. Because even, I don't go over there that often. But if you need to deny this ordinance for those houses to stay there, they need to move. If it was me, if I had done that, I would have to pay the cost for that. No excuse. Because there are some things that I had to do in my house because of the city. You have a double standard. And it's just not acceptable for me. I'm not speaking for nobody, but I don't know the people here. I don't know them. But I do have a property over there. So you need to consider denying this ordinance just because they're investors or whoever they are. I don't care who they are. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If the city made an error, they made an error. You pay for your error. So that's just the way it is. You know, they're not going to lose any money because they already done robbed people all these years in these low income. See, that low income is a cold word. So, if you're going to give a house to somebody, let it be a decent house. I mean, time out for this, whatever's been going on all the time. Time out. And that's why I'm speaking. Because you may listen to me, you may not listen to me. But one day, you will have a conscience. Because I've seen people on that die in bed, and people have admitted to me things they've done to Afro-Americans. So be careful in your decision. I'm not going to be up here and take up time because somebody else may want to speak. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank
Mr. McClintock, were these lots already assigned as is, or were they subdivided after they were purchased?
If it's fashionable, we didn't agree on.
Okay.
What was the question?
Were these existing lots, or was it subdivided after for the new development?
It was one lot.
They were existing lots.
Yeah, they were existing. They were existing.
Three existing lots, separate.
Two existing.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir?
That was one of my primary questions. Was it one lot or three?
No, it definitely wasn't no three. It was, one at the Blackwell and right there on Cook.
We need to go back and look at it too.
Several concerns.
Okay,
State your name. and your
Leonard
address.
Brown, my address is 1732 Blackwell Road.
Okay, thank you.
It was one of the photos that was taken at a perspective.
Do you promise to tell the truth?
I promise to tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
Thanks, sir.
But it's been mentioned several times, this community has been sitting there since the 1930s and 40s. My father was one of the ones instrumental in trying to get paved roads in that area. And for years, that community was promised curbing, sidewalks, additional improvements that we've never seen.
Right.
The minute when they broke ground on this property, I questioned. They had already flagged it off, and I questioned where this was leading to. When I saw the flags, I went out into the public road and walked the distance. I'm not an inspector, but I've got building knowledge. And I walked the area and knew then there was a problem. So how did we get to a place where a home is 95% complete before we realize there's a problem?
Three houses.
And 3 houses out of what most in this community thought was one lot.
It said single family development.
And when I started inquiring about it, these 3 lots were, had already been rezoned to high density. High density lots. I'm not sure where any of this came from. There's several questions concerning this. All in all, this was a bad move, bad mistake. Since this project started, just about every day since these buildings have been up, on Blackwell, it's going to detour you one way or the other because they're blocking off the ends of the road already, and nobody's even occupying the homes. So I can only imagine what traffic and anything else is going to be once the houses are completed. Bad move.
Thanks, sir. Who's next?
Good morning, my name is Renee Lockyer,
Your address?
313 Austin Street.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you
I do.
God. Thank you.
So, I lived in that community 50+ years, and we value our community. And as Mr. Brown said, our parents, our grandparents, we grew up together. We've asked for certain things in that community over the years from the city, and nothing has been done. But we've maintained and did the best that we could in that area. My husband and I just bought a property in Mebane, North Carolina last year. And when we bought our property from DRB Builders, the surveyor came out, we went out with the survey, we went out with the inspectors, looked at the property, looked at the land. We picked out our model that we wanted for this lot. At the 12th hour of time for us to get ready to build, the surveyor, the inspector, whoever comes out, I think it's an architect who come out and look at the land and what's supposed to be built on that property, told us that model would not fit on that property because of where it would come to the road. It was coming too far out. They seen it, right? So I got a lot of money invested. I got to go back and redo what I wanted, my model that I wanted, I didn't get to keep, and had to make another decision. It baffles me that the city, I spoke with Jeff, I think, yesterday in some great deal, and he was saying to me that the property line for this property that you bought, no hard feelings towards you, because I think it's a city, this is a city need to talk this out, goes out to the middle of Blackwell Street. Make that make sense to me. After all these years, this community been over there, zoning and construction and all the different things that's been allowed, or whatever goes on in the community, how did this property line end up being in the middle of Blackwood Street, which is supposed to be a city street? Blackwood Street is it owned by the city, or is it owned by this person here? Because if it's owned by him, and then when they move in, when we start having neighbors in that community, they're allowed to park right there in the middle of the street, because that's his property. That is not gonna work, because it's like Mr. Brown said, the driveways are narrow, there's not a front yard, you can't even hardly put a fence in the front yard, it's so close to the street. It's a safety concern for me. The children, our children ain't gonna stay confined to no backyard to play. They're gonna run around in the street, they're gonna run around the front of your house. We've had children, I got children, grandchildren, they run around the street. And I think it's a safety concern for any kids, if you build it for low-income families, who's gonna have children and families, those children are gonna be in safety harm's way, to be that close to the street. I just think it was a bad deal. I think it's something that the city needs to fix with this developer and help them make some decisions. I think that when we looked at those pictures that he showed in reference to the units and saying that a lot of the homes were right there close to the street. Most of our homes, you could even put a tree in the front yard or something. They're not that close to the street. I even rode through that. I took pictures on my phone so I could bring them as well today to see the differences of the distance. If you ain't been out there to see, maybe before you guys make a decision, you come out there and ride and see. Because seeing the visual picture may give you a different concept of whatever you see in the community. It just don't make sense, and I just don't understand how you can go from a surveyor, an inspector, a permit, all these different people see it. And you come into the neighborhood and you looking and you riding through and you see how all these houses offset to a certain distance from the street, and you allow someone to build it right at the road. It's at the road. There's a ditch right there. And there's 3 houses on this one lot. And I've been there for 50 years. I know Mr. Preston Williamson, who lived next door, he took care of that lot. It was over the years. And to our understanding, it was only doing one lot. Yeah, if it was divided into 3 different lots, that's something we can see. And I have one more point I want to make. When you were talking, you were looking at the 5 things to give the variance. I also noticed that it was updated, the UDO was updated in October 2023. So what did the UDO say before you updated it? Did you update it to compromise to make it right for this developer to be able to do it? Or what did the UDO, those 5 things, what were they before the updates was done? That's my case.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yes.
They were the same 5 things.
Well, what was updated?
Why did it get updated?
Lots of things went to council to be updated, but that particular section was not
They
updated.
said the same thing, all those 5 things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just still think it's a bad deal. I decline, I think that we should not do this, and I think that the city should work with this developer and help him come out with some reasonable way that he don't lose his money, because I don't think he should lose his money. I think he may be doing it in good faith to be able to try to do something for the community. So I do believe that, but I think that the city needs to help him fix that, and our community should not be obstructed with these kind of, with this kind of, it's like, and also, I'm gonna say this one more thing. Like, if we went to the country club, if I wanted to develop, and I want to go up there on North Carolina somewhere and build something, or West Burlington to build something, I bet you gonna check every line, every corner, to make sure that I'm building within the certain perimeters of that neighborhood, that community. Because guess what? Because you don't want it obstructed. You don't want it looking any different than what it currently looks like. Well, this is making our community look different than what it currently looks like. We welcome new developers coming in. We welcome the remodels. We welcome all of them coming. We want it. We've been asking for it for years. My mama is 83 years old, and we've been over there in that community. And we haven't been able to get hardly anything for the city. But all of a sudden, you can come and just drop 3 houses in our neighborhood, and I think it's unfair.
That's right. Anyone else?
My name is Jeanette Williams,
Your address?
904 Hunt Street.
You
But,
swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
Awesome, thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry.
and
What was that address?
94 Hunt Street. Hunt Street is where I live at. But that property is supposed to have been my property.
Take your time. It's all right.
That's my dad's house. That's my dad. He took care of that property. The Williamsons.
That's right.
That's our land that was taken from us.
That's right. Williamsons.
That's supposed to be my property. My dad used to have a store there for the community. And not only did they put them houses there, but they took some of my dad's land from his house to make it work for you. Some of our land that he been paying taxes on for years and years and years. Y'all knew y'all needed our land to make it right. So y'all stole from us. We've been paying tax on this land, and y'all came and chopped some of our land. So it would be right for y'all land. And I see it. 314 Hooker Street, that's our land. That's the Williamsons. From the Blackwell, where the store was. The Williamson Community Store. And it hurt me to see me. I can't even hardly go over there. It hurt me in my heart. It hurt my heart so bad. This should not go forward. These houses should not be there. It's these big 3 houses in this little bit of land. They ain't got no land. They ain't got no backyard, no front. What they saying, they ain't got nothing. You come out your back door, you in the neighbor's back door. It's these big houses. Where in the world designed something? Who designed something like this? It should have been just one house. Because there was one store down there. And we took care of that property. My dad and my brother, Mo, they took care of the property. And you stole my property from me. That's supposed to be my land. Yes, exactly what I said.
How?
How? Because it's the Wilsons.
May I be excused, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just don't have personality. Thank you.
I know you can't take it when somebody talks the heart.
Nope.
And tell the truth. You can't take it, kid. You can't take it. You can't take it. When I'm coming from the heart. And when I see this happen to our man, and when I see it happen to our man, what did he say?
What did he just say?
What did he say about
What
white
did he just say?
You need to call him back and
Yes, you need to address what he just said about white people.
I do too.
Yeah.
It needs you to address what he
Take a
just said.
15-minute recess. Like to resume this meeting. We were in the middle of public comment. Ma'am, are you finished with your public comment? Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Public comment.
Can I make a comment?
Hold on.
Mr. House, can I make a comment?
Hold on. Do we have any more public comment?
Everyone that's in the meeting, you know, we're here to consider, there's lots of issues here. You know, and I'll just say ownership of property is one of the issues that has been brought up. We're not here to make a decision as to right title and ownership of the property. We're here to discuss and hear your concerns regarding granting a variance to allow this property to remain closer than the 25-foot setback that's in the new code section. It's not about, is it affordable housing or not? Is it a structure that's ugly or pretty or green or yellow, or who owns the property? It's about the variance request. And I know it's an emotional concern for the community, and the board acknowledges it. It's an emotional concern for the community. Let's try and present your arguments as to why it doesn't meet the requirements for a variance to be granted. If you can concentrate on those concerns, present that to the board so that the board can consider your concerns, consider the concerns of the builder, the city, whoever, and render a decision as that way. Thank you for letting me make the comment.
Thank you, ma'am. State your name and address.
Jettie, Jettie, Bryant, Bryant. I live at 1423 Knollwood Drive, Burlington, North Carolina.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I sure do.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment and ask a couple of questions. I do not think the variance should be permitted. I think it's a great idea that you want to improve Morgantown. But in 1969, when I graduated from high school, we still had dirt roads and outside toilets. We had the promise of sidewalks and city limits and everything. That some of that has come to pass, a lot of it has not. I am not in favor of the variance because when those people step off their front porch, they're stepping in the street. I looked at it. I think one house would have been fine, but not three. There is no way that sidewalks, driveways, or anything can be completed with 3 houses on that one lot.
Thank you.
And you also need to think, when you show what used to be, those houses were built by our parents, our grandparents. They were built in 1930, 1940. There were no zones then. But when you come with a new house, that's when the zones came in. That's when the rules and regulations came in. Those people hand-built those houses themselves. There was not a construction person coming in building those houses. If you look into it, you'll find that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
ma'am.
My name is Nicole Wright Lee, and I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
And your address.
303 Austin Street,
Thank you.
one of the ones that was showed up there. As far as they are stating that the variance and stuff with it, my mother's house does not, is not completely ownable. Back in the day, even whenever I was growing up, and I still stay there with her because she's unable to come here, I'm representing for her. The city, state, they're the ones that dug the ditches where the house is now, so closer to the street. Excuse me, I have pictures here from whenever I was growing up until 1990, whenever the state or city decided to dig up the street, dig up the ditch to make it wider, and cars have sat there. And as far as like hardships and everything and stuff, I understand that that would cost a lot of money, and God knows I don't have it, and I can understand you. But my mother's house was hit a few years ago, coming through the curb. We've asked for even guardrails to come through that on this side, and it hasn't. And no one helped her, city or nobody. And she had to do it by herself. And I mean, so, you know, to me, I don't mean no harm, and I understand what they're trying to do and everything, but that's a smack in the face with her too. And for us. And just, you know, for the variance, as far as safety, it's not done for us either. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Douglas Sellers. Last name Sellars. I have property on Harris Drive in Morgantown. And
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
absolutely.
Thank you.
There was a time when we had dirt roads, and then we kept petitioning and petitioning. We finally got paved roads, sort of, with the intent, according to the city, that we would have sidewalks. And that never came to fruition, but the fact of the matter is, where is the sidewalk that we were promised? And where are you gonna put a sidewalk, in this situation? Now, I'm a note taker, I write down what you say. And the young man that just left, that we're gonna pray for, this young man said that he went out and he didn't measure. Now, what you doing going out there in the first place if you're not gonna measure? That's one of your tools of the trade, something to measure with. And, but that's not my greatest concern. My greatest concern is the fact that you can't tell children that they gotta play in their backyard. You can't do that. And we sit here making this decision. And right now we talking about money. In essence, we talking about money. But how about if we were talking about a life? Children are not going to stay where you tell them to stay. They got this little bitty land, and you open the door and let them go outside. They gonna play in the road. Mainly because you say don't go out in the front yard. They going to the front yard to see what's gonna happen if they go to the front yard. We don't want those children's blood to be on our hands. We have opportunity now to take care of this situation. And people are not always doing the speed limit when they come down to this. They're not always doing it, you know. And when I heard about this taking place, when I stopped at the stop sign and I turned, I'm like, what the? And you thought it too when you saw it. You said, what the world is going on? How are you gonna build 2 houses in part of the street, really? And you showed all these other houses, all our homes that over in Morgantown. You showed those, but you gotta take into account of the fact that all those houses had somewhere to park. And they had a small front yard, but they had a larger backyard. These 3 houses that are clustered together, 2 of the ones that I am seriously concerned about, those houses have no space for a driveway. Really have no place for steps or handicap ramp or anything else. They're just sitting there on the side of the road. Now you can go from Charlotte to Greensboro, you can go all over. You will never see this again. This has made history as far as I'm concerned. How are we sitting here even discussing this with that sitting there hovering over our heads? We can't let that go. How you gonna let that go? Because the main thing is the children. They're not gonna stay in nobody's backyard. You know they're not. I got 13 great-grandchildren. They ain't gonna stay in no backyard when I tell them to stay in the backyard. They're gonna peep around, and they're gonna come around to the front yard, and they come around and get hit, hurt real bad, or heaven forbid, lose their life, and we're gonna be sitting here with the blood on our hand, looking like we're looking now. We better be thinking. And these neighborhoods that we talk about, you know, I know we got we live in a neighborhood that has not been well maintained. And part of it is the homeowners. Part of it is that the city has promised us, and you never came through with the promises that you made us. Laying all that aside, those 2 houses have no business sitting there on the side of the road where you can almost reach out of your car window and knock on the door. I mean, it's ridiculous. We are intelligent human beings, and we got a decision to make. This young man, I believe he believes in doing the right thing. I do. I feel that. Y'all do the right thing by him. Because you see somebody out there that didn't do their due diligence. They didn't measure. The inspector didn't do the... All throughout, somebody dropped the ball.
Yeah.
They did. And because somebody dropped the ball, as I go back to my main concern, the children ain't got no business paying for what mess we made.
Thank you. Anyone else? Have a motion to close the public hearing, sir?
I have a couple of points if I could.
Yes, sir.
It was brought up about a question about the zoning. This is HDR. In 2019, this ordinance was adopted, and the ordinance before that had the property as residential 6. Residential 6 just automatically converted into HDR, heavy density residential, and that covers the entire neighborhood, not just these 2 properties. All of those properties out there are HDR except for the business at Austin and Preston Street. That's different.
What business?
Okay?
On the street from you, sure.
And then secondly, I'd also like to say, there's been some, this one. These properties, this is Alamance County tax. These 3 properties, well, these 2 that we're speaking of, and then this one is what was brought up. They have been separated since at least 1951 as 3 separate parcels. That's 51, and that one there, which is not a part of this hearing, is also back to 1951. So they are not 2 houses or 3 houses on one lot. They have been separate lots at least as far back as the 50s.
But still, there's a safety concern.
Yeah, I'm just speaking to what was asked about those lots.
Okay, that clarifies.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that, based on Alamance County.
So,
Yes, and that's all I have, unless
Okay.
there's any other questions.
I have a question. Looking at the 2 lots that are in question,
Yes.
and looking at lots that are nearby, let's say, just about across the street maybe,
This one?
there, and directly across the street, 1779, down a bit. Those lots all appear to be about the same square footage, same width, same depth. I'm not able to measure right now, so looking at those lots, they all seem to be about the same size. So it's not unique that these lots are smaller or larger, and those ones on Blackwell all would have the same setback. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And a setback is not from the middle of the street 25 feet, it's 25 feet goes back.
It is, the setback line is measured from that right-of-way line,
From the right-of-way line, not
Yes.
from the,
not from the property line.
okay. And the next question would be, when the plans were submitted, it appears that they were using the edge of the street as the 25 feet.
It appears that they were using the property line as the 25 feet.
Which
on their
is
survey.
at the edge of the street?
No, it's in the center of the street.
Center of the street, okay. So what is the distance from the edge of the street to, say, the porch on one of these
It
properties?
has not been surveyed.
Why?
So applying that option for comparing other properties, that exception rule, do we know the distance of those homes from the edge of the street back? Is this consistent with any one of them that are in that block, do we know?
If I'm understanding the
I'm
question,
trying to make an adjustment by allowing using the edge of the street as a gauge, because I'm hearing that if they step off their front porch, they're gonna be standing in the street. Looking at the pictures, I don't see that, and I'm trying to understand, is that rule applicable? If these houses are 15 feet from the edge of the street, or the other one's 15 feet from the edge of the street also? Understanding they've been built when zoning wasn't, and
some appear to be very similar.
I might ask the community, is there, at this point in time, you indicated that you needed additional time to put together arguments. Is that hiring legal advice to argue this for you, or is that just coming up with a different plan? Or is that negotiating with the builder for some type of alterations, as in, hey, can the builder put sidewalks in front of these 3 lots and maybe carry it down a few more blocks so that you get your sidewalks that the city's been promising for years? Is there some alternative like that that works?
Excuse me, what did you say? That question that you said. You said when we
Several of the speakers have indicated that, one was we need additional time. We weren't given enough time to prepare for this. Do you need additional time for legal, or to put more evidence that addresses the variance together? Is there something that you would consider working with the builder, and is the builder acceptable to making some alterations? Concerns being, there's not sidewalks there. Is the driveway going to fit? I'm not a builder. I don't know if the builder has the wherewithal to say, hey, you know what, if we can work this out, I'll put sidewalks in front of those 3 houses or further down. Do you need more time to discuss that with the builder, and we potentially hold this hearing in 30 days to make a determination, or should we proceed? And those are questions that I have.
I think that
For a speaker, if there's one person who wants to speak.
I will. So again, I'm Renee Lockett, and the property 313 Austin Street. I think that what I hear the community saying is that yes, there do need to be a little bit more time for us to kind of gather more information, talk to the builder, or you guys come up with something with the builder or the city and the builder. Because I don't know what we in the builder can do. I don't know if the builder's gonna, if he even can put sidewalks in. I think to put sidewalks in front of his property, don't have sidewalks in front of the property that's been there for all those years, is not gonna, that's not gonna fix the problem either. I don't think that'll fix the problem. But I do think we need to, if we can't make a decision that we need to table this and come back, will we seek some other kind of representation legal? We might, if we need to kind of move forward to see how and why this is happening to our community, and because we don't think the variance should happen. Again, one of my main points was the safety, and for the community, for those people, those persons who may buy those property, and or it's just not some of the information that we think is being presented is not as accurate. It's just not accurate as what's being said. As far as when you ride through, I think pictures show one thing, again I'll say, but when you ride through the community, if you look at his house and you look across the street at the house of Deborah, it's a significant difference. And the distance from the street to the front door of these houses. And again, one more point I want to make is when I was told that his property line is in the middle of Blackwell Street. Can that be his property, or is it going to be the city property? So whose property is it? So those are things that I think we need to get some clarification for before we make a decision.
Hearing that, I think the city would have to agree to postpone it. The board would have to agree to that also.
I would just like to say one thing, Jeanette Williams, and that one of those houses, like I shared before, my dad used to have a store there. It was a gas, he sold gas as well. So under one of those houses, it's a gas line, because one of the first house on Blackwell, my dad sold gas. It was a community store, but he sold gas. He sold groceries and stuff in the store. So underneath one of those houses, there is a gas line.
Thank you for pointing that matter out, but that doesn't have to do with
Well, I was just gonna share
But I
that.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
We took that out, by the way. We removed the
They removed
underground.
it. They removed it.
That was my concerns, that
Okay.
I feel going forward, that's my questions. Other question might be, when a builder submits something to the city, Does the city normally accept what the builder provides as the plans, as to where a structure is going to go without going back and looking at setbacks and making sure?
No, setbacks are reviewed, the site plan is reviewed, what they submit is reviewed through GIS and through the zoning and the standards that are in the ordinance.
And we miss it this time, or, no, the city missed it this
The
time?
city missed it this time, that's absolutely correct.
Question?
I have a question. I just wanted to know, the young man, Santo, or whatever his name was, he said they found out about the problem and they stopped work on the property, but then they started again. If it was something wrong with the, why did they start again without knowledge? That's my question. I just don't understand how you started and then you started back when you knew something was wrong. I'm trying to understand that part.
It is, I don't work in inspections, and our inspectors left. My understanding of the process is that they were so near to completion that they have not received any final inspections, but they were allowed to proceed up to that point, which was not very far. What inspections were really left? I don't think there were many. It was caught at a time when the houses were nearly complete. All inspections for both properties, the final inspections, have been stopped and held off until they either achieve this variance or something else happens. That is my understanding from the inspections
I was
department.
just trying to understand it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Why is the city the applicant on this?
The city's the applicant because the city staff felt like it was our mistake, and so that we would present for the owner.
But
Inspector error.
In what we have to look at to determine, whether we allow it or not. Section 3 says the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicants or the landowner. And it
Clearly it is.
seems like you're shooting yourselves in the foot.
Tell them, just explain that.
Like, I'm wondering why this was the course of action taken. Is there,
We felt that the
better reason?
we felt that the contractor and the owner shouldn't be burdened with it. Therefore, we wanted to present it in that way. We felt it would be taken as that they did not do this.
I think, well, that's not so much a question, more so it's also that it's all related or similar, it's the same issue.
Okay. All right, that's what you'd like to address the board?
I have a number of things I think I'd like to point out to the board during the deliberation phase after we close the hearing. I wouldn't mind just saying to the folks that have appeared and spoken, the Board of Adjustment is an independent board from the city of Burlington. These folks are all volunteers. I am the attorney for the Board of Adjustment, not at all for the city of Burlington, but for this decision-making body as they do their work. They are like a judge and a jury in a case. That's why they call this kind of procedure a quasi-judicial or court-like procedure. So it's not like just a public hearing where everyone can sort of air grievances. Generally, we have to be focused, the board has to be focused on the legal issue, which is this variance that has been applied for. The only legal authority they have relates to hearing evidence and ruling on this variance application. As I began by saying, I am their attorney. At some point, probably in just a couple of minutes, the evidentiary hearing will be officially closed, in which case the board is going to be deliberating and considering what they have heard. So at that point, the right of folks to present evidence and speak is over. They could decide to reopen the hearing. Normally you don't, because at some point you just want to say, we've heard everything we need to hear. Now it's time for us to get our heads together. But I thought I'd just give you that explanation of this process and who I am and what I do. My name is Francis Raspberry. I'm the attorney. So pretty soon they'll be doing that. And of course, stick around because this is all a public session and you'll be in attendance. You can hear exactly what their comments and what their thoughts are. Thank you.
One more question. From Board of Adjustment meetings that we had last year, I recall you saying that we are basically supposed to rule on this as though construction hadn't started. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is, your decision should be the same regardless of whether the old expression is whether someone who's seeking permission from the city or forgiveness from the city. It makes no difference. It is as though you're looking at this with clean slate.
I just wanted to make sure that wasn't specific to that hearing we had last year and it applied to all. So, yeah.
No, neither case should have a leg up because this was not caught and this is an after the fact determination that you're having to make.
Anything else? Do I have a motion for us to go in closed session? Yeah. I'm sorry, open session. I mean, to close the evidentiary hearing.
Before we go there, I've heard from those that are opposed to granting the variance, potentially asking for a period of time to put whatever together they might want to put together that addresses the criteria for granting the variance or denying the variance. Does the petitioner, that being the city, I believe, have any desire to grant a delay or consider a delay to allow additional time to work anything out or not?
I think we should close the hearing first,
Okay.
and we'll discuss that.
All right.
Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close hearing.
Second.
I second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion is closed, or the hearing is closed. We have a motion before us to consider whether to delay the vote, or delay the deliberation of the vote on the matter. Any thoughts on the matter? Any thoughts on that motion?
Can we get a response from the city on that? Or no? Is that not right? Close to your
The board controls its own calendar, so you are entitled to decide if you want to take this under advisement, postpone the decision-making process. That doesn't mean that you can't ask questions. If there are questions that might be helpful as you move along, but that is your call. Obviously, you can ask what the city's position is on that because they control the space, but you all control your calendar.
If this is approved, it'll just go forward. If it's denied, it will be kind of turned back to the city and the builder to work out their own concerns and grievances and figure out the best way forward. Is that correct?
I think that's accurate.
So I don't personally see a reason to postpone, knowing how I intend to vote.
Knowing that, as you just said, if we vote one way or another, both parties have the right to appeal that determination, and that appeal goes to the district court, I believe. Superior Court, and that will take a period of time to actually gets called, I would imagine. That given time for either the grieving party to put their ducks in a row, put their plan forward, so when it gets to a court date or settled beforehand, and that'd be the case. I'm in agreement that not to delay any further.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the board's thoughts on the matter?
Let me just add this comment. Depending upon how your vote may go, there needs to be a final order in the case that includes findings and conclusions. So it would be helpful to me if you have some discussion concerning what your thoughts are and what you consider to be particularly pivotal, important evidence, and the findings are the focus, the five findings that you must find in order to grant the variance. So it would be helpful if you could give us a little guidance, because again, it has to be written up in the full order.
And looking at, just call number 3 here, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant, being the city or the landowner, the developer. In my opinion, looking at the evidence presented, I think that it's the builder's and developer's responsibility to know those maps, understand property setbacks, understand property lines, and they've kind of created, in my opinion, the hardship upon themselves by not knowing or doing their proper due diligence and making sure they were within the proper setback. That's my opinion, that their self-imposed hardship. Yes, I agree, it's a hardship on the applicant and the city. And it's also a hardship on the community if they have to tear this property down or make major renovations. The community has been asking for improvements, and here you have a developer that wants to come in and make improvements, and you're creating hardship if they have to tear that down and that lot goes back to disarray or whatever. And it's a hardship on the builder. So I see all the other requirements being met. I'm just stuck on the not doing proper due diligence to ensure that you're in those guidelines, and the allowance for the setback being no greater than what's in the common area or the block, or 500 feet horizontally. Nobody gave me measurements to say we're looking at pictures, so I would be inclined to not grant the variance at this time.
I disagree with you 100%. I think we should grant the variance at this time. I think the hardship did not result from actions taken by the landowner and the builder. I think it was the city's mistake. And you have to rely on city approval, which was granted. The city came and testified today that they made a mistake in the approval process. And I don't think we should penalize the builder for the mistake that the city made.
And I agree with you on that. However, the applicant is the city. And in section 3, it's the applicant who is bringing the hardship on themselves. I agree. I personally believe the landowner and the builder should be held harmless because they went to the authority for the authority's rule and figure and truth, and the authority gave them misinformation.
I think we should ignore that aspect of it and grant the relief anyway, because we're a board of adjustment. We're here to adjust and try to do the right thing for the landowner.
Now, there was concerns on life safety issues, that nothing in here in the hardship quotient, nothing deals with life safety, right? Are we allowed to, should that come into play in our decision?
I don't think so.
I will point out that the standard for granting a variance, number 5, and I'll just read it, I don't mean to influence your decision, but the standard is that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. That you asked about life safety, and public safety is mentioned in as one of the criteria for granting variance.
similar complication with that third standard, which is to say, I feel like if the builder or the landowner were the applicant in this case, I think I'd see it from a different perspective. The city being the applicant creates a kind of on its face complication for me, and I recognize that the chair's thoughts on the overall goal of the variance being, this, especially this language of justice. Again, I'm thinking of the owner here, he made an investment, he saw authoritative directives or approval that his investment was appropriate, they said it was, and then later said it wasn't. So I bear no ill will in any matter to the property owner, but it seemed like the hardship, might not have resulted from action of the applicant, but inaction or oversight, and that's where, in terms of missing, and to this date, not having a measurement of the distance that was missed.
I'm gonna disagree with you, because he hired a surveyor who surveyed the property, and was hired to handle that sort of aspect from, so it wasn't him that missed it, it would be his employees or his contractors.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't trying to suggest that the owner.
So I think we should go ahead and approve it, despite the fact that mistakes are made. I mean, that's what the Board of Adjustments does, is we adjust around issues that come up afterwards, or after the project is predominantly complete.
The great thing here is that we don't get to assign culpability, or we don't have to assign culpability.
Right.
We make a decision and then we kick it back to the parties affected to make their own resolution. So I think we're probably all talked out.
I'll mention two things, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
That the city is the named applicant in the case. I would just offer that in my experience is procedurally a bit unusual, but the owner of the property, developer, is here, and the evidence has been presented, whether the gentleman that spoke in support of his project was the named applicant or not. That probably is not legally defective, that the city was trying to help out, so it sort of carried the burden here, but it's unusual the city is the named applicant. The standard number 3 concerning the hardship was not self-imposed. That reads by the applicant or the landowner, so that sort of covers the field regardless of whether you have the city as the named applicant or not. The gentleman that spoke is the only individual that has legal standing as a party in this hearing, but I think given the way the hearing was conducted, it's pretty clear that he's a party in interest. He has standing. He would have the right to appeal if the decision was made adverse to him. Second point is, of course, this is a variance that requires a 4/5 vote. I know you all are sort of having a straw vote here, straw poll amongst yourselves in the conversation, but it is a 4/5 vote requirement in order to approve the variance. That is the North Carolina general statutes.
And it's pretty much straight, yes or no, we can't do it with any recommendations or requirements?
You have the authority to grant the variance requested, to approve the variance, or to approve a variance subject to special conditions. I'm not sure that really, normally that would relate to there is, for example, let's just say there was a variance request on some setback dimension, and it was not an after-the-fact ruling where the numbers were established. You know the numbers that you're dealing with, what the code required and what we see on the ground. But let's just say you had a new application, someone had topographic problem or something, and they couldn't meet a 25-yard setback, and they requested a 15-yard setback, and you said, we will grant a variance in part, but you've got to go at least 20 feet from the property line. You can't make 25, but we'll customize the variance with a condition that you can be varied only to the extent of a 20-foot setback. But that's really not the case here, because now the issues are pretty clear, at least to me. It appears that it's either grant variance or deny the variance in 2 options.
Any more thoughts? requested by the owner in the cases involving 1724 Blackwell Road, Burlington, and 1720 Blackwell Road, Burlington, for unnecessary or for variance from the front street setback standards, UDO section 3.7BF. The following facts, I believe are necessary. Unnecessary hardships result from the strict application of the ordinance. We've heard that to comply with the ordinance, the structure would have to be torn down and rebuilt in a different location. I do believe that's an unnecessary hardship. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. I believe that the property line for this property extends from the center of the right-of-way in Blackwell Road, rather than terminating at the edge of the right-of-way line. 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the landowner. We've heard that the landowner did not do anything wrong. The applicant is the city of Burlington. However, it's the landowner who's the true party in interest, and that the error concerning the street yard setback was not identified until after construction was near completion. 4, the variance approval is the minimum necessary to make the possible reasonable use of land, building, or structure. Variance requested is for only the front street setback requirement. No other variances are necessary. And 5, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. This is an older neighborhood in Burlington, established well before the UDO. The structure is built in its current location, spaced somewhat similarly to homes on the adjoining properties and streets in this neighborhood, which appear to be closer to the right-of-way than the current standards permit. The UDO does provide relief for the minimum street setback standards in the neighborhood established before the effective date of the ordinance. That's my motion. Do I have a second? Hearing no second, motion fails. Do we have another motion?
Motion to deny. Before we go to a motion to deny, if everyone would look at the exhibit 2, 3, or 2, 2A, 3, 3A, and whatever other exhibits you need to look at. And we have this concern with public safety. Raised. If the stairs coming off the landing were moved, instead of coming down to the front street, or coming down to the side of the deck, front deck, that doesn't put somebody coming off the step. Looking at the pictures, they're not walking onto the street, I agree. But that grants an additional 5 feet more of space if those landings come off. That we make a condition acceptance. If they change the position of the steps coming off, is that something that the board would approve? So I guess my motion would be to approve with the condition that the stairs coming off the front porch be moved into a position that they don't land on the front street, they come off to the side. If we approve that, the board doesn't have to, the builder can say no, I'm not going to accept it, or the city can say no, they're not going to accept that. I mean, it's a motion to say, would that work to address some of the public safety concerns that we have with whoever eventually owns these homes? Kind of moves the steps back 5 feet, give or take, from being that close to the street. The building itself is still going to be within that 25-foot setback. So making the motion under that condition to approve a variance with those conditions. I know it's stated succinctly, but anybody wish to second that motion?
So moving the steps, coming, not facing the street, moving towards
Coming off the
Side.
side of the landing, they would have to rework that deck.
Still gonna be the same thing.
Where's the driveway?
They don't even have a driveway. They don't have a front yard, they don't have a driveway.
I'll hear a second.
No second.
Motion fails. Any other business, gentlemen?
Motion to deny the application.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. We have two for, 3 against. Motion fails. Okay, we've got a problem, guys. We voted to not approve it, and we voted to not disapprove it. So we've got a problem.
Can I get clarity on the type of structural additions that we could, you know, in the spirit of just changing the direction of the
That's not
stairs?
appropriate for a board of adjustment. We're not here to redraw the plans. We're here to approve or disapprove the plans. We took a vote to approve that did not pass. We just took a vote to disapprove that did not pass. We're at a stalemate.
Yeah, I was referring to the motion that was heard and not seconded regarding the stairs, and if similar motions could be offered with regard to.
That could have been done during discussion, but it's already failed. We've already voted.
Oh, no, I can't report it. Okay.
Sure, let me add this, because I've had this situation come up a few times. The burden is on the party seeking an applicant. If no action is approved by the board, that is to grant the variance, the practical effect of that is no variance has been granted. There has been no affirmative action to grant the variance. So the situation remains unchanged. There is a non-conformance with setback requirement that continues to exist. So it's not as though you have to have an affirmative vote, either by a simple majority or a supermajority, to deny. If you haven't approved the variance has not been granted. That's the effect of the votes that have been made, in my view.
And does that effectively close the business on that property, or so additional motions can't be entertained after and that's just for procedural sake, I'm not, this is my first time in a contested hearing.
Short answer is yes.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to.
Nobody's made a motion yet to conclude, so.
So you can make another motion,
If
potentially.
you wish to make another, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, I'm saying if you wish to make another
No,
motion.
the reason I hesitated is that there has been no action to grant the variance, but there has been no final action of the board that has been voted on and has carried. So technically, the case is still before you, so if you wanted to recess the hearing, that would be an option since there's been no final action approved by a vote.
I'll take a motion to recess.
But they say it's denied, they say it's denied, they say it's denied.
Well, that is
Well, if we're gonna recess, we
Just
can't,
wait,
Do we need a time frame? Yeah.
we cannot deliberate.
Nope.
No further deliberation. Recess would just be to walk away and clear your mind, think about it.
Yep.
Or you're saying recess.
Superior court.
Yeah. Because y'all,
It-
they already denied it.
You're always, the matter is still on the floor. You can move to take a recess. Now, I'm interpreting that as meaning 5, 10, 20 minutes recess to a time certain at this hearing today. If you choose to hold the hearing open and continue it to a later time, that's an option, but a recess, of course, is usually a shorter period of time, and it needs to be announced, how long a period of time it will be.
But during that recess, we're not deliberating or discussing.
Correct.
So,
Do we have a motion to continue this to another hearing date? No.
Also, we need to get used to it.
But you in recess?
No, we're not in recess yet, ma'am.
Do we have a motion to continue this hearing to another day?
I'll make such a motion to next meeting.
Continue this hearing to the next meeting? Okay. If we do decide to continue this hearing to the next one, I'd like to leave a sheet for everyone to put their name, and telephone number, and address on it, so we can notify them of the next day of the hearing. Go ahead. You have a second? A second. A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Clarification, the board is in deliberation after the hearing has been closed. This is a continuation of the deliberation.
That's gonna be my question. What are we hoping to accomplish with the continuation?
Hopefully we'll all think about it and resolve our differences.
It's not a matter of receiving more evidentiary hearing, it's not a matter of,
We're on deliberation.
But if the city and parties involved came up with something before we make a final decision, they could withdraw their request. Is that possible?
Anytime short of a final action, yes, a party can withdraw a request for a variance, yes.
I would prefer that we conclude that.
I would too.
I haven't heard a second.
I thought it was a second. Yes, there's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Opposed. All right. Passes 3-2. We're in recess. The next meeting. And continues.
You need to
Yeah,
indicate
continuance.
that we don't have a time certain for a continued hearing,
That is
but
correct.
that all those present will be notified based on the sign-up sheet that we will leave, so you can be contacted.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Maybe that's the issue, on the bottom side, working out the city, some resolution, and they come to us, or they show up and they say, hey, we dropped the whole thing, or we have a new variance, request that's gonna do this or that. Sorry, I'd like to discuss with you, but we're not prepared, we don't want to talk to the city, it's waived by them.
Okay, you said we need to sign something with our name.
Yes, it's gonna give you a, we don't have
chairman and several board members who requested more time to consider that proceeding. In order for it to pass, it needs to be a four fifths, yes. 17 people. Still need 8.
make sure it's clear enough so they can.
Everyone else here is accountable. I'm in extra territory. I can't Nobody.
say aye.